All right. Well, I have a very special guest here with me today. Um, we're going to talk a bit about a success story that's deeper than most people. And this is Anthony Stewart. This is Food for Thought, but we're going to talk to Fleur today, all the way
Hello.
from Vietnam, who I've had the pleasure of working with for a year. It's been a year almost to the day where we hooked up, and I'm going to start just Fleur, maybe introduce yourself, and then we can kind of get into some of the the experience that you've had with the carnivore diet
Yeah.
for a year.
Yeah. Um, where should I start? Well, like let's take it like 1 year ago, right? Like where I was physically, mentally, like everything. So I've been suffering from endometriosis, which has been, like very challenging. And I'm pretty resilient, and I actually built a life around my condition, to manage my condition. But what I realized is that I was always preparing myself for it, being into it, or recovering from it. That was pretty much my life. And I was trying as an entrepreneur to make it work around that. So that was super challenging. And I never really felt that the traditional medicine was there for me. They were there for me during flare up, for sure. I did, oh gosh, like probably 20, 30 times, calling an ambulance, going to the hospital, sitting there forever in excruciating pain. That was not really addressed. I know now that I have like a high threshold to pain, and I'm very good at handling pain and managing pain. But my condition and my situation in the worst of the flare up were not really, they were like, oh yeah, lady, like period are tough, you're cramping. And we're not talking about cramping, we're talking about full, like you have so much pain that your body is going into shock. And, like let's be real there, you're shitting yourself, you're throwing up, and ultimately you're fainting. And so so it's been super challenging. I've been trying to find, different way to manage it, because that was really about that, and especially in the traditional Western world, you take a pill and you get better.
Yeah.
But I realized that, and I knew that from before, I knew, and I took birth control when I was younger because I didn't know better. And my cycle was definitely painful. So they were like, hey, take the pill,
So just sorry to interrupt you for a second there, but
Yeah,
to
yeah.
just to give the context of what endometriosis is for all, for some of the guys out there that don't understand what happens.
Yeah,
And we don't have to get into great details of exactly what it is, but pretty much for us, for your cycle, your female menstrual cycle,
yeah.
it's horribly painful. And basically for, the entirety of the cycle, it's so unpredictable to what you're going to go through. Right. And when we're talking like, this is pretty much your life, right? Like for how many years? Like lots of years.
15.
So for all the guys out there that can't even fathom this is a serious thing that, is kind of, even in the medical system, from what I found with Fleur, was it was it was basically, oh, you're broken, just suffer. Here you go. Here's some pills, here's some steroids, deal with it, and there's not much we can do. Is that kind of what it is?
Yeah, so, well, I mean, like, there is two things they can do, and that they do usually. And because as women, we haven't learned to look at our cycle. We're cyclic. I mean, humans are definitely cyclic, but especially women, let's say it that way, because like you can see it.
Hmm.
And so what they want you to do is like, if it's very bad, they will do a surgery. And so remove what caused the inflammation. So that's the extreme case. And to arrive there, there is so much suffering and, and the other one is taking birth control.
Ah,
And we know now that birth control is a source of cancer,
hmm.
and other, you can do a stroke.
So many complications that were like just put aside and not even realized. Yeah, for sure, for years, for decades, for
Oh,
multiple
yeah.
decades.
Yeah, yeah. And so most women take that for 30, 40 years, like it's just like nothing. And so there is two part of me. I'm coming from a scientific background, so I love science. I love, like all of that, and I'm very logical. But there is also another part of me that is very sensitive, and that I've been all my life really trying to reconnect to as a very powerful tool, actually. And I realized that birth control, so the easiest way is like, just take birth control. It's nothing. Everybody's doing it. Why don't you do it? Right? Having like synthetic hormone into your body gonna actually screw up your natural cycle. So what most women don't understand is that they don't really have their period. This is fake period.
Yeah.
And that's why women that have been taking birth control for years and then want to have a baby, you need a little bit of time to switch, And so I personally realized, and it was, in my late 20s, early 30s, that for me, birth control was making very disconnected from my body
Hmm.
and very depressed.
Yeah.
So I had a choice. It was like you choose like the week of pain, or you choose to be depressed and want to shoot, just checking out.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was very clear. I'm like, I'm choosing life, I'm choosing my body. And I know that symptoms are actually messages from the body for us to realign, because there is a misalignment there. And intuitively, I always knew that it was, like a lack of something. But, like reading a lot about endometriosis, like all those inflammatory articles, like talking about inflammation because it's a big thing in our lifestyle and our society.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I need to kind of like diminish the meat because, like, especially red meats, right? Like, because it's inflammatory.
Yeah.
And even if when I eat it, I enjoy it, I can see my body is doing very well on it, being like brainwash,
Yeah.
brainwash,
That is a perfect
about.
a perfect example of programming, right? Like it is what it is. It's the truth. And I hear that. And like obviously I'm not a woman and I have helped women with hormonal things. And it's really difficult for, not only a guy to sort of try and get in there and explain a few things, but you said a few beautiful things there. Is what I've come to know now is if we disrupt the natural hormonal cycle, that's one thing. Fake hormones, sure, we're replacing something, but why is it happening? And when we're just putting it aside and just treating the symptoms, that leads to just more symptoms, or it's not addressing why, the root cause. So, well, so you kind of had this intuitive, like something was disconnected. It was, whether, obviously at that time, throughout your life, you didn't really understand it and know what it was, but you felt something was like, unnaturally doing something, right?
And
So,
that's the thing, like hormonal imbalance, they don't happen in one day,
no.
right? That's something that happen over time. It's very subtle. It's very small hormonal change create big results into the body. And we're living in a society that's, like they give us poison all the time, right? So think about all the flagrances. Think
Yeah.
about all the pesticide in the food, in
Chemicals.
the water, the chemicals, right? Like all of that, plus, a bunch of actually very disturbing, like disrupting hormonally, everybody and not only women, right? We see in men
Everywhere,
the,
right? Yeah.
the decrease in
Yeah.
testosterone, they increase their estrogen, they
Hmm.
have those feminine body, right? That is a consequence from it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of affect us all, right? And the symptoms come in different way. And for me, it was the endometriosis, which, like for the little story, I never been really fully having the diagnosis,
Yeah.
because for this disease, you need a surgery and they need to go in to double check if it's the case. And
Okay.
so, the people following me on the medical system never really accept to do this, the laparoscopy, which is this procedure to just, double check if it's endometriosis. And they were just take the pill. Like, why don't you take the pill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna get back into this stuff because definitely there's some things that we need to go through, but what we'll get there. What I want to do is, so how, I've been working with you for a year, but how did you sort of, I know you kind of heard of me through a friend, but what drew you to this? And obviously you knew that I was, helping people with the carnivore diet, and what sort of led you to that
Okay. Well, yeah. So last year I gave up. Last year I was like, this is getting out of control. Give me the pill, give me anything. I would have taken anything really. And I was very sad about it because it's against everything I believe, you know. But I was like, my life, I cannot manage my life. As I said, I'm working for myself. So if I don't do well, like the consequences are big.
yeah.
And I was like, that's it. Just give me the stuff, And they wanted to give me an IUD,
Yeah.
which is like the less worst you can have.
Exactly.
But if you go into this rabbit hole, I mean, there is a lot that they don't tell us anyway. I was like, okay, that's it. This is the only way, And I had this back and forth with the medical system, and somehow it never worked. Somehow the referral was never received. I mean, that was very interesting how somehow I was like, weird, like it doesn't, it doesn't
Yeah.
work.
The universe is talking. Something's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've learned the hard way to listen to the universe, And, like it was at the end of this back and forth with like, my family doctor and the specialist, like the gynecologist that was like dealing with my endo.
Yeah.
Actually, my doctor was like, oh, just so you know, I'm moving out. So you're losing your family doctor.
Oh,
So
yeah.
welcome in Canada, where you have actually chronic condition that you need to be followed by specialists, and that it's super complicated to actually get people, to support you, right? So I was a little bit like, okay, well, that's interesting, what am I doing from there, right? And I had this really crazy day where I had three of my girlfriend that we talk on the phone. And, at some point, I mean, we know each other closely, and they were like, hey, how is your endo? And I was like, that's it, man. Like, I'm just giving up. And so one of them was into the carnivore, and she was, I'm not doing the carnivore diet for hormones and stuff like that, but I've been noticing improvement with my PMS and all this stuff that women are dealing like it's nothing, One other, so that's her connection there, that she was like, oh, I did this 3 months with Tony and that was amazing and blah, 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 blah. And another one that was like, I didn't do it, but I heard it could help you. Okay, so like I'm hearing all day long, carnivore, 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 like I'm like, oh, okay. And so our connection, she was so sweet. She called me back in the evening and she was like, hey, just talk to Tony. He would be open for a chat with you. If, if you want to, you can have a chat. And we took it from there.
Yeah. And, when you called me, I had already been dealing with some people that I kind of realized that there was something. Not only, PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, was, according to Dr. Ben Bickman, who's one of my favorite people, he was just resorting everything to insulin resistance. And then as we talked, I kind of, I do these things where I go down rabbit holes, and I wanted to know what endometriosis was really, and I saw so many similarities, so many things where the disconnect, when we can get into why, but and I was like, I think at first, I remember saying to you, I was like, I don't know, but let's try. Let's see what we can do. And, I kind of pitched the full throttle carnivore diet. And, one of the most important things I think to realize is that, I've dealt with a lot of people that sort of, did they have to do it? No. But in your case, and it was, we'll get into this too, but in your case, it was one of those things where I put it flat out. I think I said, like, you need to give this a real shot, and not, sorry, I'm going to swear a little bit here, but don't fuck around. Like, you need to heal. And that's where we started on the premise that, this is hormonal. We started talking about why insulin, sugar, inflammation and endometriosis was your body's way of showing you these things were happening. And, so you did. And we'll start at the beginning. What were you thinking going into this?
So, like I've been raised kind of like eat diversified, eat a little bit of everything. I'm definitely a carnivore at heart. I love meat. Okay. My family used to laugh about me when I was little, because each time my grandmother wanted to go to the butcher, I wanted to go with her, and I was like that on the, and I was like, whoa, so like, I'm not sure what is there, but somehow, I really believe that, we've been brainwashed in many ways.
Yeah.
I think food is the biggest crookery.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the food pyramid, I'm like, fuck that. And I'm going to swear as well, because I'm like that. But this is, like they prime us, the system prime us to believe a certain thing, right? And so at first I didn't know if I would be able, even if I like meat, to be able to eat meat every day.
Yeah.
So my head was really resisting. My intellect was like, I'm not sure if I can do that. Okay. I was already eating what you would, on the big spectrum of things, which is not what I think anymore, but I was on the healthy side of things.
Yeah.
I'm cooking for myself. I'm eating, definitely, like trying to do all those things. But that was not enough for me, and I never realized. So that's the thing, I never wanted to go into the food rabbit hole and the nutrition rabbit hole, because for me that sounded so without bottom.
Yeah.
And you listen to some people, and some people is like, pretty much eat grass, this is good, and like other, in the spectrum of things, and you have the other people like, no, eat meat, that's the natural diet, right? So like, I'm like, this is too complicated. I didn't want to go there. I know that eating diversified, organic, local,
The
all those
rainbow.
good
Yeah.
things is the way to go. And just for the little story, I even went vegetarian and then vegan for a few months.
Yeah.
And I did that 3 months. Well, it took 3 months to even screw my cycle even more. And one night I thought I was dying. I was losing so much blood. I'm sorry, guys,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna be crude here because like we
People
need
need to hear it.
to,
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
and I woke up and my bed was soaked and you're not going back to bed because if you go back to sleep, you might never wake up. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like my life there,
Mhm.
and I was vegan. I was trying to do like the healthy vegan. Okay. So I was not trying to eat fake meat, fake cheese, fake
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But
Whole food. Yeah.
that's really screwed my body. And so right away I went back to what I knew, what I've learned. I'm French. We have our culture is all about food, let's say. But like it didn't work. It didn't work. So when we connected, I didn't have anything to lose. And so what I do when I go into change like that, I'm like, you know what? You can always go back to your shitty lifestyle.
I think because when we started, I think we put you on a CGM first, didn't we? You got a CGM?
Yes. So
And
what we did is like from mid-December,
yeah.
2023
Yeah.
to the end of January, what I just did was like ramping up my protein content
Yeah.
because through our conversation, it became very clear that even if I was eating meat, eggs, dairy, all of that, I was not eating enough protein.
Yeah.
Very, very clear.
Mhm.
And so we got, so that was, and I noticed already a few things about vitality.
Mm.
Okay. I always thought that I was this lethargic, a bit on the depressive side of things, and I had to manage what I thought was my baseline, my nature.
Yeah.
And so in January, for 2 weeks, we got the CGM, which was such an eye opener. And I did that for my parents this summer, and it just like
Yeah.
you know, because
Well,
like you see the curve, you see how your body react from what you're eating. So I didn't change too much, and I was just testing.
yeah. And
Yeah.
for the people that I'm coaching or helping or whatever, that is so key because once you can kind of see when I explain, for one, all carbohydrates are sugar. Then we explain how much sugar should be in your blood, how long it takes to leave. And I'm explaining insulin because we can't really test insulin, but you can see, okay, now there's what's going on. So when we're doing the hard stuff where I've got to explain to you why you can't eat this and don't eat that, it's just a really good thing to do. And it was pretty cool to watch you go through this because really, like you said, we just focused on lots of protein. Don't be afraid of fat. Don't change a thing, and just watch. This is how the blood sugar works, and that was really cool. And after that, we kind of because and here we'll get into this too. Is the weight loss side of things? Is a lot of people in this space think about weight loss, which of course, sure, you want to lose weight, but in your situation I had to tell you that like this is not about weight loss. This is about getting your body back into, trying to get it back to a 0 point. We have a battle to get you back to, arguably, a normal state. So how did you feel about that? Because like we'll get into the amount of weight you lost in a second and how that goes. But what did you think about that? Because it was, telling somebody that it's not going to be fixed easily and it's going to be a long time. I know that's got to play around with the mind a little bit.
Yeah, but like I'm not that I want to, Just, like I'm someone that like when I do something, I do like 200%. It's just the way I am.
Oh yeah,
So I know not everybody is like that.
yeah,
That's the thing. But I'm a 0 or 100. I cannot do the in between. If I start to be like doing it a little bit, cheating, blah blah blah, I know where we're going with that. It's like from one cheat to the next.
yeah,
Okay. And because I know that, I was like, okay, I won't cheat,
yeah,
but um, yeah, like, so, I mean, we will talk about like, carnivore like lifestyle maybe after, right? But like I knew that my condition didn't happen in one day, and I knew that hormonal imbalance, it's like small tweaks,
yes,
right? Like, so I already knew, like, before we had this talk, where like you were never, like promising me anything.
yeah,
And that's what I really appreciated with you. But at the same time, you as well, you invested yourself 200%. I mean,
yeah,
we had days where like at 8 a.m. in the morning on Sunday,
yeah.
you
I
called
mean,
me and you were like, I've been reading about this stuff forever. Like,
yeah,
this is what I found. Right. So like I knew that wouldn't be, like a easy fix. And I knew that the fact that I was overweight was connected to my hormones. So all
yeah,
of that was
yeah,
symptom, consequence of
yeah,
my health. I also knew that, yeah, me dieting was not working for me, right? Like the more I'm dieting, the more I'm getting weight. Like I'm just like, my body was in such like I
chaos.
think survival
Yeah,
state,
yeah,
that
yeah.
like anything that was coming its way was there for storage,
And
you know?
when we first started, and I explained the foundations, right? Like we focus on what your body needs, and then we try and figure out what it needs more of, as opposed to just supplement, 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 and like, and that was the really cool thing about you when we started this was I knew you were all in, and I knew that it was like this was a deal breaker for you because a lot of people take this shit for granted, and they don't realize that you are already starting from the end game. Like a lot of people, they're on their way, whether, what insert chronic disease or condition here. You're on your way well before it's even manifested. Yours was manifesting, you're at your wit's end. And, your courage to do this was remarkable because, we had a little group of like the community we're talking, and, some it's everybody's different, obviously, but some people could get away with cheating, and it would be like, oh, it's okay. And I'm not saying there's not time for that sometimes, but in your context, you're watching these women lose weight, cheat, have results, and you're just, your nose is to the grindstone, like battling. And I want to tell you, like, I'm so proud of you because it's when you started snacking on butter, that was it for me. I was like, like now you understand, like this is what you do. And oh God, I remember thinking, oh, Fleur's gonna be like freaking out, but you're like snacking. You were the first one to start snacking on butter, and it was like, it was really cool. And we can get into why that is, but obviously fat, saturated fat, hormones, it makes sense that you want to have your building blocks there for your cycle, which we kind of dug deep into that whole the whole cycling in and out of how the hormones transfer and go through the cycle. But I remember a conversation with you. It was probably about a month in, and you were pretty much at your breaking point. I think you were like you were pretty depressed, pretty anxious. You were feeling like shit, and I think you were on that sort of fat adapting train.
Yeah.
And what made you stick with it? Like, how did you? Because a lot of people would have fallen off there.
I think it's like, Well, this first conversation we had about insulin
Yeah.
and how insulin is a master hormone. It's dealing with sugar, which is poison, and it's dealing to, it's like a triage in the emergency room, right? So like we do the poison and then maybe we will do the nutrients at some
Yeah.
point, right? So I never realized what sugar was really doing to my body. And through these 2 weeks of CGM experience, that really showed me, like I was like, yeah, like I'm on the savory side of things. I'm not a sweet tooth, right? So I would saying that I'm not eating too much sugar, but I'm French. Bread is
Yeah.
like foundational there. And so through the CGM, I realized that my body was trying to regulate after each meal, and it was taking 6 to 8 hours of regulation. So, in those 6 or 8 hours, you're going to eat again. I mean, I'm doing 2 or 3 meals a day, right? Like, so, like, yeah. And so it really showed me, and I thought I might be high in sugar somehow. But I realized I was low because of these mind-blowing things of insulin resistance.
Yeah.
And I'm turning 44 in January, and so like I didn't realize before that as you age, right, your body is getting less and less efficient. So what you eat start to really matter, right? In your 20s, it's okay. We cheat. We don't sleep too much, whatever, right? But we can handle it. At 40, it's an all other ball game.
Yeah.
And so many times, I had this Italian meal. I love Italian food, right? So I did like kind of like my last meal. And I go there and I do it all. I take 2 Negroni, empty stomach. I had a beautiful meal. I do the tiramisu, I do it all. And I did what you actually, explained to our group. Like I was like, how do I feel?
Yeah.
How do I feel after all of that? Because we were super happy to eat it all.
Yeah.
But how do I feel right now? And I can tell you, I didn't feel great at all. I went out of the restaurant and I was like, whoa, like, should I take a cab or can I walk back home? And I was like, I'm probably super high in sugar. What's going on? And I tested my sugar and I was at 3.
Yeah.
And I was super low, just been eating a ton of carbs and sugar and all of that. So it showed me that my body have a hard time to deal with all of that. And I even did like a test with a fruit, right? You have people, they eat a fruit, is their snack, fruit is healthy, blah, 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 right? If I eat an apple, I have a spike of sugar.
Yeah.
So I know that somehow my insulin is reacting, right? And a little bit too much, because even when I eat sugar, like, my sugar in my blood is very low. So all of that showed me and kind of like primed me in my brain, my intellect, that I was like, okay, like, the culprit is actually, this sugar insulin pattern that I've been having my whole life.
Yeah. And that's
So I knew, yeah, I was like, okay, let's do it.
and quite often, like the problem with, well, we'll just call it insulin resistance. There is no test. There is a test, but doctors don't do it very often. And if you are realizing there's like, I mean, some people, it's like a textbook. The blood sugar goes up and it takes forever to come down. But if you find that your blood sugar goes up, it stays up and then boom, crashes. Well, that's the sign that the insulin's not working and then it has to work. And then all of a sudden it's dangerous. It's that total erratic sugar roller coaster. And the problem is to try and tell somebody that hasn't seen that, it's like you don't understand. And every time your blood sugar goes up, you're getting damage. Damage is happening. Every time that insulin is not leaving your bloodstream, your hormones are getting confused and blocked. So, even if you weren't insulin resistance, because of your other hormonal issues, that is a huge deal. So the least amount of insulin in your blood, arguably, the more efficiently your hormones are working. So explain now how long it took you to get like fat adapted, to really get fat adapted.
Like fat adapted, I think, because I did this ramping with the protein
Yeah,
and like for 6 weeks, I was still eating the sugar,
yeah, yeah,
but like I ramp everything up, right? So I would say probably 6 to 8 weeks to have my gut
yeah,
being able to digest more fat, because
yeah,
that's definitely like a transition,
yeah,
but also to get my body from sugar fuel to fat fuel, right? So there is those two components
yeah,
that people collapse very often,
yeah.
and they're two different things.
And how, when you, how did it feel when, because like I know there's a switch where it's just all of a sudden the energy is, and it's almost like it's not an overnight thing. It's just like all of a sudden I'm sleeping better. All of a sudden, oh, I just, so these small things. And I think I remember I was telling you to eat more, I think, at one point. And you're like,
I
what? I'm like, just eat more.
I think that that was probably the most difficult thing for me, even if I like meat and, like all of that, to be like, okay, I have more or less, so now without having like a clear number of the
Yeah,
quantity of
yeah,
protein and fat you need for your body, depend of so many things, and your lifestyle and all of that, right? But it was like, how do I get, my protein in, at this time I was having 2 meals, like
yeah,
pretty much like brunching, and dinner.
yeah,
And it was like, how I can make it work, that was pretty much like the way. And I think it's a very personal
yeah,
thing to figure out, because like you have like guys like you that can eat in one meal like a lot, right? So if you have like, like a small appetite, how can you make it work? Because the worst you can do is not eating enough, actually.
yes, that is the worst. And that's the most, the hardest thing to grasp when people start. And you're not alone here. And I mean, I did it too. And it's you're not eating enough. And it's wild when you're looking at, you can go into the details on why that is and think about how much shit that we eat that does nothing for us, that fills us up. And then when we actually have food that does things for us, we are already in that, well, that's too much. And it's really, really important. And we played around a bit, I think, with the amount of fat that you're having. And I got to give you, Matt, like amazing, like I guess the word would be determination, because to tell you to eat more fat when you're already overweight, and obviously it's not the reason, but there is still that, it's hard to, I'm trying to explain to you that your body needs to be safe and it has to trust you. Like, this is the thing where if people think, oh, I'm just good now, and it's like, no, the body works in ways that we can't even fathom because we're so programmed on what is not true, that the body is smarter, way smarter than we are, and it knows and it wants, and when it's ready, things start happening. So what was the first thing in regard, because we'll get into the weight loss after, but the first thing in regards to your endometriosis that you started noticing, when did things start changing, and how was it, how long did sort of the progression, and then we'll get to where you're at now.
Yeah, like it was very long. It took a long time, but like I had little nudge that somehow it was getting a little bit better. Like I was not having this excruciating pain. I was able to manage my pain. So still with too many painkillers,
Yeah.
definitely, and that's also a
How
thing, is like,
actually how many painkillers were you taking at like before this, like up to this point? I want people to really hear about this.
Well, like I was, like for inflammation, I was taking Advil,
Yeah,
right? Like strong Advil. I think it's like 400
400
milligram
milligrams.
per
Yeah,
pill. I was taking two right from the bat,
yeah,
right? Like always one, never one, always two,
yeah,
And I was doing that, actually, I was doing that before my period because like this whole inflammation
yeah, yeah,
cycle, you can like cut it off,
yeah.
right? Like if you anticipate the pain, which is, it's hard because you're like, am I better if I
Mm.
start 2 days before, like, like the roller coaster?
You're just getting on the cycle to try and beat the symptoms. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And so I mean, like, you're supposed to have like, I think it's 2000 of,
yeah,
I mean, 2 grams
yeah,
of, what is it, paracetamol, I think?
yeah. Something like that. I don't know. It's
Anyway,
ibuprofen.
like I think the max dose per day
Yeah,
officially
ibuprofen.
is about 2000. I
Yeah,
can tell you
I've
that I
heard
was
that before
taking
too.
at least 2000, maybe more.
Yeah,
And that's the thing. I knew that it was fucking with my liver,
yeah. Oh yeah,
which has already a hard time to deal with my hormones. I mean, like, after a while, like
yeah,
like your lifestyle is a bit fucked up because you're like, gosh. And that's why I was like, okay, I need to shift and something needs to shift. And maybe, like those hormones compared to the quantity of the painkiller I'm taking are not so bad,
yeah.
you know?
So
But
so
I have a thick skull.
so we can arguably say a shit ton of Advil on your cycle.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And
So
and even stronger pills actually. Like I
yeah,
had like hydromorphone.
yeah,
I had pills of morphine that I was, it's interesting because, now I'm living in North America, right? I'm in Vancouver, Canada, and they're not dealing with Tylenol 5. That would be the way to do that in
yeah,
Europe.
yeah,
They give you definitely like morphine, hydromorphone,
yeah,
liquid, boom, to deal with acute pain.
yeah,
And they give you, like just a few medication with morphine in it to be able to deal with the crisis. But I can tell you, man, when you're into the crisis that you cannot keep anything down, this is not the moment to do that. And if you start to go into morphine and all those opiates
yeah,
thing, it was very clear, like my body needed at least 2 weeks to recover from those. Plus the addiction. But it's not really addiction, it's that you have a few pills that can like knock
really,
you out in 20 minutes
yeah.
and you save them.
Yes,
Like
I know. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what people don't understand. Like it's not like where we want to take pills and
no.
and just like get high on morphine. It's just like those pills. And I was having
And
a
in an event of an accident, break glass. Yeah, right. Yeah,
exactly because they don't want to give it to you. If you ask for it, they won't.
yeah. No kidding.
Right?
I know that's the other side of this. Like obviously we could go into that for days. So so you were taking a shit ton of Advil, a shit ton. Like obviously pain was the well, we'll call it the priority. It was the thing that
Yeah.
you were dealing with the most. And
Yeah.
how long did it take your body to start noticing things changing?
So I think it was at month 3.
Hmm.
So after 90 days, like to do like, getting fat adapted,
Yeah,
right? Getting into the groove
yeah.
of the animal diets, like all of that doesn't happen in few weeks,
Oh,
right? I had this conversation with my mom. She was like, because we've been talking a lot with my parents, because my parents were very worried about my new diet.
of course.
And so we've been talking a lot about it. And, they were already worried because I'm on the other side of the world and I'm dealing with endometriosis, right? But like, she was like, okay, maybe I could try for a few weeks, right? And I was like, no, mom, don't do it. Doesn't
Yeah,
even worth
yeah,
it.
exactly. Exactly. So 3 months, and just
Yeah.
for the the people out there that are all about the weight loss, how much weight did you lose in that 3 months?
Nothing.
How did that feel? Because I know that there were some people that were coming along with us here on this ride, and they're losing
Oh
weight.
yeah, they were losing weight like crazy, like I mean, like it was, and as you said, like cheating
Yeah,
and way like they were not on strict diet like me,
yeah,
right? They were like an in
a little
between.
keto-ish. Yeah, just fat.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
And
nothing.
and I remember there was a few times I was taught like just had to talk you sort of through this because like I mean it was I mean I think I was even losing weight like it was like
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, you were.
it was like we did when did we do our first beef butter bacon and eggs? Was that probably about 3 months? That was about 3 months in, wasn't it?
Uh, yeah, probably around that time.
Yeah, and that was where
I,
like usually the belt notches start going down, and I know I was just like, man, I felt for you so bad because I was like, it just I was honestly just hoping that you were just gonna, because like that was at that time, like I think the things started. You could notice things getting better. I mean, even though you weren't in the glory or wasn't completely gone, obviously, but you could see that there was shit was something was going on in your body.
I mean, if I don't have to go to the hospital, it's already a big sign for me
Yeah,
that the pain somehow doesn't go into like those like high stuff.
yeah,
That was already huge for me. What I actually noticed first, like beyond like the adaptation and this transitory period was my mental health. And so I really want to talk about that because fuck, like if you feel shitty your whole life, it's just like the way it is. You don't even know you can be better,
yeah.
you know?
So you
And
know
so,
what?
yeah.
Like that is such a good. It's coming up more and more now, even with the people that I'm talking to and helping now. Is you describe the feeling you have now because you can't unless you felt like shit. And this normal that brain fog, blah, energy, all this shit we take for granted once you start feeling good, and we're talking on an energetic level here, like the energy starts balancing out, and it's not like you go for crushing workouts and like running marathons. That's not what it's about. It's just this all of a sudden this sort of this fog lifts, and you start. It's clarity. I think that's what the ultimate description is your mental clarity just starts becoming, and you become resilient. I mean, I know you've had some challenges, and your brain has always been you know you've been really like laser focused in actually the process, the journey, because and I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah, and that's something, like we don't talk enough, I believe, especially for women that, like I mean, I'm from the 80s, right? So it's all about that's this moment where we start to shift gear and be like, no fat, 0%, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like we've been primed to actually for many, many years. And can you imagine? I mean, I was like, whoa, the body is so resilient because we're eating nothing.
yes,
And
yes,
the body is trying to do the processes, to use any building block we're giving, and for me, that was really crazy. It's like, as you said, like it's like the fog lifted
yeah,
and yeah, like I'm sharp, and I used to look for sharpness. I was like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, like what's going on? Like I'm just so slow, lethargic. And so it was in the body a lack of vitality that was,
yeah,
and you go to the doctor and they're like, well, like this, everybody is a little bit like that, take more magnesium or
yeah,
whatever, they vitamin C or whatever, like and the thing was, like mentally, like the way I'm able to focus and do my work and do all of that. Like, I mean, that's what's on the big spectrum of everything that happened to me.
yeah.
That just like amazed me.
Could you argue that you started feeling human?
Yeah, like feeling it's interesting, because there is this clarity and sharpness and like you can see like cognitively,
Yeah.
like for sure, like brain is fat. I mean, water and fat, right? So it kind of
Yeah.
makes sense there, and vitality, better sleep. I always had little pain and aches that I kind of manage, like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
the joints, my left hips. Actually, like, so 2 years ago, I was like, I'm always in pain with my left hips. Like, what's going on? Like I might need to get surgery in a few
Yeah.
decades because of that. I mean, like, I was like just noticing
It's on the
all
path.
those all those pain and aches that people are like, yeah, well, it's
Just getting
getting
old.
old.
Yeah.
This is what happened when you get old, and now I'm not so sure.
Yeah. No kidding. Okay, so now we're feeling better. I mean, that's unquestionable. The cycles are getting a little bit better. You're noticing that there's not so many extremes, because that's what I kind of gathered too was so and actually at some points it was like a couple steps forward, or maybe a step back, and then a couple step, and it wasn't just a straight line. I'm awesome, and that's something that a lot of people can't understand, is that depending on us, wherever you're at, the healing process is going to do what it does. And it takes time. And I often say decades of unawareness, is not going to be fixed in a month, 2 months, 6 months even.
Yeah.
So when did you notice a big difference in your cycles?
I think it's really started months 6.
Yeah.
I started to play a bit with my Advil, right? Because like there is always this pain management stuff that I've been doing for a year, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you want to know if you get better, don't take painkillers.
There you go.
But at the same time, you're freaking out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think I started to try that, and it didn't work so well at first because I was like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
now I'm in pain,
Yeah.
right? Not the pain that, would send me to the hospital,
Yeah.
definitely. And I had this project, to spend the winter in Asia. And so that's also something that, the little carrot or the little like ribeye, let's say, that kind of motivates me because before I wouldn't be able to travel, that's for
Yeah.
sure. Like, like, I mean, on comfort wise and insurance wise, like nobody would have
Yeah.
insured me for travel in this condition. And so I think it's like months, yes, 6, 7, where like I started to notice like a real improvement and starting like to shade,
Yeah.
like some weight.
Yeah.
But I have to say that like the weight were always,
Yeah. Yeah.
and on the big spectrum, it was like going down,
Yeah.
but very slowly.
Yeah.
But like each time I would lose some weight, and I had to force myself not to weight myself.
Yes. Yes.
And
That's
once a
that's
week is enough, not once a day.
yeah, that's it's so tricky, especially with healing, and especially when your body's going through this like a big changes, and the process, like fat is such an intricate part of it, and body fat, adipose tissue, is an organ in itself, and it's going to do things, and sometimes we have such programmed body weight, and it's a whole other dynamic. And obviously body fat percentage in a certain context, it matters, but you're actually turning over bone, muscle, your enzymes, everything is getting more dense and healthy. That actually plays around with the scale a little bit, right? And it's when it's funny, we all know muscle weighs more than fat, but try and convince somebody that's trying to lose weight that your plateau is good, like it's a good thing. And so but you noticed a real shift at a certain point in your weight loss, didn't you?
Yes. Yes, it
And
it
how long
it
was
was
that?
long, you know.
Yeah.
So I would say like, yeah, months six, you know, like the beginning of the summer, right? Like I had like I started to lose weight, and I have to say, you know, it's interesting how the how people, you know, their vision of you, right? So I have my friends, you know, they don't know too much about nutrition, that for sure, but they think they know,
Yeah.
right? Because they heard stuff and they just repeat like a
Yeah.
freaking parrot what they've heard.
Yep.
Okay, they never really experienced the thing, but they would nudge you to, you know, do difference of what you're doing. And everybody connect to the weight loss, right? So as soon as I start to lose weight, people were like, oh, okay, it's working.
Yeah.
But like the 3 months in between, where like I was
You're
like
gonna
so
die. Yeah. Yeah.
experiencing, so I had adapted. I was starting to experience, you know, like getting better into my health, like my mental health, right? Um, Having less pain, you know. I mean, like all those little details that I
The
was
non-scale victory.
noticing. Exactly.
Yeah.
But they were like, you're still on your thing?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Right?
rough.
So
Yeah.
that was tough. That was actually made myself like mad a few times, and still now, you know. And I'm in Asia now, so can you imagine? Like they put sugar in everything, everything, and I have to make sure. I mean, I'm cooking for myself those days.
Yeah.
But like if I can do that in Asia, like I'm just like I can do that everywhere, like
Yeah. So
because that's not easy here.
how many how many times in a year have you actually cheated?
2 times.
Wild.
Two
And
times. Yeah.
what happens when you do?
No, okay, 3 times because there is this tea stuff that was crazy. So, okay, so the first time I cheated, I didn't know. I go for grocery shopping, I'm on the rush, I take the sausage that I thought I'm usually taking, and it was actually, I mean, very nice stuff, but morning sausage with cranberry in them.
Hmm.
And I didn't pay attention, you know, and I'm cooking the sausage and oh my gosh, my body, like I'm salivating, like I'm cooking the thing. I'm like, it smells divine, you know, this caramelized thing, right? And and I put it in my plate and I ate the first bite. And I was like, no, 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 no. There is sugar in that. This is too good. I had to go in the garbage and look and was like, oh shit, morning sausage with cranberry in them.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. It didn't, you know, like that was not a big thing. I mean, like, you know, I digested. I didn't go into too much of a discomfort.
Mhm.
So that was good, you know. The other one were for the 70s. So my father just turned 70 this year. And I did the whole meal carnivore, you know. And they bring the dessert, and it's one of my favorite, like those little like custard stuff. I mean, I was like, okay, just, you know, 70s, I mean, it's happened once, you know. So I did the dessert, but what I realized afterward is like I ate before, like full protein fat mode.
That's
And on the top of that, you know, I had not as much as other people,
mhm.
but I did, you know, like a few custard puff and a glass of wine.
Mhm.
And so I can say that, like, especially the alcohol, it's I could feel my body. I was like, it's. I mean, it's okay, but it didn't feel good.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, like right away, I noticed that, And the third time, it was actually in Asia, and I had to call you in the middle of the, I mean, that was the middle of the night for me, day for you, but I was freaking out. So I arrived in Bali, and I didn't feel too well, long travel, like, and one of my friends was like, go for massage. Like, like I'm in Bali, like they do fantastic massage. And so I had, I treat myself there. I had a beautiful massage. And after the massage, they bring me a tea. I mean, they bring me a tea, treats, the full on. I mean, that was fantastic. I couldn't eat any of it. And I'm just noticing, I'm like, oh, interesting. I just had like a nice lymphatic, like stuff. And now they're giving me all this sugar. But anyway, I'm, double checking, is this tea is having any sugar? No, 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 And I take the first sip and I'm like, oh, there is sugar. And they're like, no, 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 no. And I take another sip and I'm like, there is sugar. And I go through half the cup. And I can feel, and so that's super interesting because I feel a kind of like, it's like my body do like something like, something, like a kind of like vibrating. I mean, like it doesn't do, you don't see it, but I can feel my body going like, And I'm like, okay, there is sugar. My body is reacting in a weird way. And so finally she was like, oh yeah, well, that's tea that we're making ourselves. So there is brown sugar in there. And I'm like, brown, white, whatever, like molasses, honey.
It's natural.
This
sugar,
is not
right?
good. This is natural. This is a good one, right? No refined, blah, blah, blah. And so, so I didn't feel good. And I was fasting. So that's the thing. I didn't eat anything. I was fasting that day. And my plan was to eat a beautiful dinner, And I just found myself into the hotel and I didn't feel good. I was like, I cannot even eat. That's like, I'm just like not good. Yeah. And I was feeling a bit just like, it's hard to explain. At first, I was like, I'm almost a bit nauseous.
Yeah.
Feeling a bit off, like when you start to be sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the middle of the night, I mean, like I didn't sleep one bit. I was in full flare-up inflammation, full pain.
Yeah.
Like kind of like the endo pain, but all over my body.
Yeah.
And I managed the pain the way I know it, with bath and hot cold and, and I was saving my endo medication. I didn't want to take it. But at 4 a.m. I was like, screw this. Like, I mean, I'm going to take a double dose of strong Advil stuff. And finally I slept.
Oh, okay, good.
And I had to call you because I was like, there is something going on there and I don't know how to manage it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, once we're dealing with traveling, circadian rhythms, jet lag, all that great stuff, especially if you're fasting, you know what I mean? Your altitude, we have no idea what altitude does. Like we think, oh yeah, we're just flying at 30,000 feet. Does nothing to the body. I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of what the hell's going on in your body, but I was happy to know that passed over pretty quick. So that was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just hydrate, electrolyte, a ton of electrolytes. And yeah, in the morning that was gone.
So, okay, now we'll get a little bit more into the weight loss. So how much weight have you lost in a year?
Well, so I haven't weighed myself for a while, right? So
actually, I'm going to put a picture up of you. And I think this picture I have is from you in May. So you'll see.
Yeah, actually, our friend Maria, she took actually picture of me, like full picture.
Yeah.
And so I will ask someone here to take a picture of me, just like we'll see the difference.
So you can see like what's happened, because.
Yeah. So like I know that it's more than 35 kilos.
Yeah. So that's.
So how many pounds is that? I don't know.
70 pounds ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
amazing, right? And it
Yeah.
happened. It was like there was a, and I noticed, I could tell like along the way that your everything was sort of getting a little bit tighter. But actually, I didn't see you for a month or two when you got back home to France. And when I saw your picture, I was like, "Holy shit, you look amazing!" Like you could just see it. It was like something happened, like the floodgates opened, and you're on your way. So that's good. Now, what do you think? Like as far as your endometriosis goes, are you how does your diet now dictate? Like, are you what do you think about? Is this are you gonna is it gonna stop?
Yeah, like everybody is asking me that, you know. So now I'm still like full on carnivore. I would, because it's so complicated here to get, you know,
To be perfect.
the amount of money and be perfect. So I would have an avocado. The
Yeah,
avocado is
yeah, oh
actually
yeah.
my treat. That's the only thing that I would cheat. It's not
Yeah.
really a cheat, but you know, I
Sure.
have
No.
pleasure eating it.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, like at some point I might reintroduce, I mean, you know, more officially the avocado and few things here and there. But, and I have a lot of conversation with, I'm in Vietnam right now. So, I'm looking at what people are eating and I'm just like, I have so much sadness for people. And I had this conversation recently. So listen to that. So I'm trying to make my, you know, like ordering food at the restaurant. And there is like a Vietnamese guy next to me. And he's just looking at me. I'm an alien,
Yeah.
you know, like what? Like you're not eating any fruit, veggies, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you're not doing rice and noodle, you know? And I'm like, no. And he's like, but how are you filling up yourself? Like, how are you satiated, you know, with your food, you know? And I was like, yeah, but like, I'm not trying to be full. I'm trying to be nourished.
Yes.
And I could see how, like, in his head, he was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And that's my thing. I'm like, no, I'm trying to actually eat nourishing foods, not filling up my belly, which, you know, it's sad to say, but for me, like I'm looking at regular food and I'm like, it's
Yes.
peasant food. You know, I had a breakfast yesterday and I had like, you know, like 5 eggs. I found from like nice cold cut charcuterie stuff,
Yeah.
you know, and I was eating my stuff, and my friend in front of me was eating oatmeal with a ton of fruit on the top, and I think she had sugar on the top of it. And like, it's very hard for me because like I'm looking at the stuff. It's look good. It's
Yeah.
the rainbow.
Yeah.
It's look
Yeah.
very nice, you know. But like in my head, I'm like, if you knew about oats, like what is really oats, you wouldn't eat oats.
No. No, because it's not food. Right? And
That's
that
what I call peasant food.
yeah.
Like it's like to keep people surviving,
Yeah, and
but not thriving, right?
I try and explain that to people that we've taken all these slave fallback food that was created to feed starving people. And now they're trying to tell us that that's better than the stuff that has all the nutrients we need. So and once you know I'm sorry I did this to you, but once you see it, you can't unsee it, and it's this is the way it goes, right? Like you start to you're in control now. You've got your own way, and you're gonna find, you know, tweak things a little bit here, a little bit there, but when you feel it, you can't not know it, right? And that's the hardest thing to explain. And how this has been 1 year you've been doing this, and I'm so proud of you because not only have you like you know arguably had to do it, but you went in all in and you realized that you know like to do this half-ass probably wasn't going to do
No,
much.
no. For me, in my case, no.
Yeah.
You know, it's totally depend of like what you're dealing with. You know, and if you go from, and you know, I never really did that myself, right? But like if you go from junk food, to keto, well, I mean, if you don't have any hormone imbalance or
Yeah,
chronic
exactly.
disease or inflammatory, like that's going to be like way better than what you're doing. You know, like, so there is like a reference point
Yeah,
that depend about like a lot about like what are you already doing, what is your regular nutrition,
yeah,
you know, and I see people now, you know, like they would eat a lot of meals. And
yeah.
I'm just like, what? You're like, you're snacking? You're snacking again? Like, what's going on there? But like, their body is asking for nutrients and
It's
they
nobody
give
home.
a snack that there is nothing into the snack. And
Mhm.
so the body is still, you
Yeah.
know,
I mean,
playing with anger.
that's the
Like,
talk. That's the talk that I'm going to be actually doing fairly soon here is about, what, what, if we were nutrient sensing, if you're eating nothing, it's just gonna it's an argument that it's not only is your brain on drugs on sugar, but your body is looking for the stuff to make it run, and you're filling up on stuff that is not good for you. And what do you think happens? You eat a shit ton. That's what happens. Snacks. Like, how do you feel about snacking now, aside from your butter?
I mean, you know, like, I mean, I don't I have never been like a too much of a snacker anyway, but
When you see
yeah, I
people,
mean,
when you see people snacking all the time,
oh my
all
gosh,
the
like
time.
I know, and it's hard, you know, because like now if people want to talk about it, I'm glad. I mean, now I can. I feel you gave me the bug. Like I can talk about it forever.
Yes.
And I have people in my family, you know, I visited like my family in Europe like this summer and that's why I did the CGM with my parents. My mom is doing alternate fasting,
Yeah.
you know, which has been working very well for her, but I'm like, how much protein do you
Yes.
eat in
Yes.
one meal? You know, so like those conversation and seeing, you know, like my aunt, especially that has osteoporosis, different type of cancer.
She eats oatmeal, doesn't she? From what I
Yeah,
hear.
and she's so proud in the morning to take care of herself with like a oatmeal first thing in the morning. And that was interesting because my mother told her a little bit, and she was like, "Oh, talk with Fleur if you want to know more. I don't have all the detail," but she never came
Yeah.
to talk. So there is, you know, like that's why I'm like, okay, like I mean, like if you don't want to talk, let's not talk.
Yeah.
Just continue what you are doing.
And so many people wait till they're desperate and then they're plugged into the whole medical system. And I'm honestly like, the more I help people like yourself just get better. Like me, like it's obviously a process and everybody's nuanced. There's certain things, but how many times, I mean, I have it too. Everybody I talk to and I ask them what they're eating and they're like, "Oh, I eat healthy." Okay. If you tell me you're eating healthy, I bet you're not. And I can almost guarantee as soon as you say that, you have no idea what healthy is. And that doesn't mean you have to go carnivore. Probably a good idea. I mean, I think everybody should try it. Why not? There's nothing wrong with it. But do you need to do it? Well, maybe not. But I'll tell you what, there is some things that the lies that are everywhere that we've just been, and it's all over. Aunts, family members of mine, you can't believe you just eat meat, you're gonna die. Look at me. Look at you. You're suffering. You're in chronic pain. You can't even, like you're worried about putting your back out. And I'm telling you, it's the oatmeal you're eating, and you're laughing at me saying I'm ridiculous.
So that's the thing that was I think for myself like the most difficult, you know, that was like this social component.
Yeah.
When you go in society, when you know, you go to the restaurant, like right now, I'm in this place where you can order lunch or you can order breakfast or whatever, and you have this chat group.
Yeah.
You have everybody, you know, is like smoothie bowl, and I'm like, can I have 10 eggs and an avocado? And, and everybody is just looking at me kind of like,
Yeah.
what? What are you doing? Are you sure eating all those eggs
Well, your
is
cholesterol,
very healthy?
right?
Yeah, so yeah, like it's been interesting, like and some people, I can kind of like feel them, right? Some people are curious and asking, we have this conversation, but some people are just looking at me and be like,
Yeah.
what is she doing? And now for me, eggs are the snack.
Yeah.
They are the multivitamin stuff. They are the easy stuff where like, when I'm in a hotel room and I cannot do anything, I just put like eggs in the kettle and I just like make hard boiled eggs and I can take them everywhere. I
Yeah.
mean, like, that's the easiest stuff you can do.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people struggle with like how, it's so boring and so, but it's actually when you get through it, it's eggs. They're lifesavers. They're easy. They're cheap. They're everywhere. You know. And once you get over the fact that they're going to raise your cholesterol and give you heart attacks, it's pretty clear that they are one, well, if not, well, one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet that you can eat. And because if their chickens are even raised in their natural environment, even better. So, so that what's next for you? I know you're going to be spending a few months in Vietnam, and then when are you coming home?
Like, I come home in May, so I have like 4 months 4 months where I go around. And I'm just, yes, it's not easy because it's Asia, but I always remind myself that if I wouldn't have that, I wouldn't be able to actually explore.
There
And
you
I
go.
always wanted to do that for myself, right? Something else I want to say is just that when I say carnivore, like people are like, but are you eating fish? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, any animal,
Yes.
any dairy product,
Swims, walks,
any
flies,
eggs,
whatever. Yeah.
and so I've been doing a lot of seafood, and seafood is kind of on the lean side of the
Yeah.
spectrum.
Yeah.
So at least I found grass-fed butter
Okay, good.
available.
Yeah.
And so we know like a regular butter wouldn't beat like a grass-fed butter. Like it's quality, quality, quality.
Especially with the fat. Like that's the huge. I tell people all the time, like, spend your money on the fat, on the quality fat. Protein you can get protein pretty much, from a cheaper animal, but fat is important for sure.
Yeah. And so, yeah, like I'm just like continuing as much as I can. And now that I can cook my own food, it's different. I know what I eat,
Yeah.
because it's always a little bit difficult, here, like to make sure, there is no sugar at all. Like for them, it's not an issue. And they can like put sugar when they grill their meat or
Yeah. Yeah.
they have it in the marinade and they're like, there is no sugar.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so would you be making this sacrifice? So this is kind of funny for people that can't get this through their heads. You're in Asia, in a foreign country, a foreign culture, arguably a very set culture, like with their food system and what they eat, and you're still finding a way to make it work for you, your diet. Is it worth it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no doubt. Otherwise, I couldn't say.
Yeah.
Like that's why like my case, like it's very clear, right? Like my choices every meal, I'm choosing myself, I'm choosing my body. I like for sure, I mean, like, you have those beautiful fruits, I don't even know the name. I never seen fruit like this, so I love to explore food. I mean, like, so I would try all those things, right? But yeah, I'm like, does it worth it? Probably not. So let's not do it.
Yeah. Wow, amazing. I just want to say, we probably should wrap it up. We're getting quite lengthy here, but I'm so proud of you, and for one, trusting me. to kind of be your guide, but you did all the work, man. Like I'm so proud of you. Like your iron will is very, very, it's nice to see, and I'm happy that that you're kicking ass and taking names in another country, in another culture, and making it work, which is pretty cool. And
Yeah, and you know what? Thank you for you because like I don't think I would have stick with the carnivore diet, right? So it seems like very easy. I mean, like just only eat meat, right?
yeah,
But there is so much tweak to do along the way, especially for people that would struggle with hormonal imbalance, chronic health issues, inflammation, to make sure that you have all the nutrient that you need, and really, and I'm getting coach here and there for many different things, but like you've been here 200%, like just holding the space and not being judgmental about any of it, right? Because like, yeah, if we cheat, it might be like difficult to be like saying to your coach, well,
yeah.
I just cheated today,
Well,
but like that you know it or not, right? But no, like it's been like amazing and having the group and the community as well, seeing those women also, like not having like those chronic condition, but it was really inspiring to have like the community and all those beautiful people that you have with you and that you're coaching, and to see their victories. And there is small victories, like I mean, like my skin never been like
no,
better,
your skin looks radiant, like it's beautiful.
right?
Yeah,
Like it's just like there is stuff like that I didn't even pay attention. That was not the why
yeah,
of what I've been through that,
yeah.
but there is a lot of stuff that changed.
Now you can see. Remember when I said you guys should all write this down because you're gonna see things and no one does it. I didn't, and now I'm like, you just write these things down because you just start like, hey, that doesn't happen anymore. Wait a minute, that
Yeah.
doesn't happen anymore. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But I mean, Fleur, you're an absolute pleasure, and I love you, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy that you could share this. I know it's tough because your situation, a lot of women out there are struggling with this stuff, and let alone confiding in a guy, to try. And I mean, I'm not even going to begin to understand how it feels, but like I said, I think that you can help yourself when you do the get the foundation sorted out, and it will gradually, unfortunately a little too gradual sometimes, but it will gradually get better. And I know if you keep this up, like in a year or two, you're gonna things are gonna be always improving because your body's this age bullshit doesn't have to exist. We don't have to get old, and we don't have to slow down, and we don't have to get worse. We can get better at any age, and I think that's clear. So thank you. Be safe, and I will talk to you very soon. And just a shout out to you. If anybody's interested in what you do, just give a quick shout out and plug for what you do if they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, well, I'm helping highly sensitive people and to reconnect, with their intuition. So I do one-on-one mentoring. I teach Reiki, which is a beautiful modality if you want to reconnect with your intuition and your gifts. Being a sensitive person is actually being connected, mind, body, and soul. And that's, yeah, beautiful journey. Yeah, thank you.
So where do they get a hold of you?
You can check me out on vibrantsoul.life. That's my website, and we can get it from there.
Awesome. Well, I would encourage anybody who's looking to go deeper into yourself to check out Fleur. She's an amazing person. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being here, and we'll talk soon.